Welcome to Discover Janesville. My name is Yuri Rashkin, and today we are guests at Janesville's Fire Station number 1. My next guest is LeCaptain of Janesville Police Department. Dennis, thanks for coming down.
Thank you, Yuri. Thanks for inviting me today.
No problem. I was wondering, I had an opportunity to ride with the Janesville Police Department last year, and I was shocked because when you drive your own car, you want to stay out of trouble. You don't go into dark alleys. And it was actually interesting because when you drive with police department, they look for trouble.
Absolutely.
They go in these directions.
You must have done a stint on night shift.
Exactly.
And that's a shift where I actually spent almost 10 years of my career here when I first started. So, and you kind of enjoy that work, but those hours eventually kind of wear on you a little bit. So.
Is that what it is?
Absolutely. And then on top of that, the clientele that's out there at those hours, they're almost always drunk, and occasionally they like to fight a little bit or be a problem in that respect. So it gets tiring, and after a while you kind of wonder if, because you're only dealing with that small segment, of the population.
Right.
You kind of like, is everybody like this? You know what I mean? So it starts to take you over a little bit.
Right.
So,
well, you view the world as based on the people that you meet.
Sure. Every day you're at work, and so you start to wonder. But so it was nice to finish my tenure down there and come back to the daylight and meet and work with good people. So
that brings me to the question of why did you decide to go into this line of work?
You mean law enforcement or the cases that I do now?
Both.
I'm not really sure.
Well, the fire truck just pulled in and we're back from a short break. Dennis, not only are you involved in potentially dangerous line of work to begin with, but you also chose to work in a department. You're a detective specializing in crimes against children. How did you make the transition from your background, and what led you to think that these were all choices that you wanted to make, and you ended up being a detective here? Because you came from, you said, a farming background?
That's right. And like I had mentioned previously, it was a bit of a culture shock, to come from that to, and Janesville's not a big city by no means, but, it's just different, and it was a change for me. But originally when I came down, it was because I wanted to help, people. It was that call to public service. And that's why I came into law enforcement and did my college and got down here. But, when I started as a young beat cop, back in 92, 93, I had no idea I was going to end up where I am today, and that is as a detective working crimes against children, interviewing child victims who've been victimized either sexually or physically. And, as a young man at 23, with that college degree and this, you're done with the academy and they give you this uniform and a vest and a gun and off you go. You think you can do and accomplish just about anything, but, without a doubt, the biggest challenges and probably the most satisfying job that I've ever had, assignment, job, career really, is what I do right now, and that is these types of cases. So, and I often joke about this. I'd done a number of years on patrol, and really I think that's where the dangerous work is at. And those patrol guys will tease me about it too. How dangerous is it, Dennis, to sit behind a desk or go to a house and interview a child, or occasionally go out and pick up a perpetrator, well, sometimes more than just occasionally, and bring that offender in and sit down in that interview. But compared to, answering those domestic calls, things like that I don't have to do anymore unless it's, things are really going south and we're needing some extra people. But so with that in mind, I don't consider it necessarily as dangerous, but it's really a challenge.
Was it just an opportunity that was there, and then you thought this was something you wanted to pursue?
Well, I guess opportunity works kind of funny that way. The boss came around and said, hey, we need somebody to volunteer. And nobody raised their hand because these types of cases aren't exactly things that people get into law enforcement for. And he looked at me and said, well, Dennis, you're the junior guy. Would you like to volunteer? I said, well, I think I'm going to volunteer because it sounds better than just getting ordered. So, but that was probably the best thing that ever happened, I think. Because I've had a chance to do these things and work with these kids over the years. So,
what are some of the lessons that you've learned, and maybe that you would like to share with people who are either looking at going into the police work in general, or maybe those who are in a situation that's a domestic situation? And I think, as we all see, people are not dangerous until they are dangerous. People are not a problem until all of a sudden they cross that line and then they are a problem. And what's some advice that you could give to people that are either in that situation or looking at maybe becoming a police officer?
If you think you want to become a police officer and join us, I welcome you to it. We really could use, more people all the time. We really, and of course, as the profession grows and as we, as time passes, more educated individuals are called upon, are hired in and brought in. The days of, you walk in with a high school education and they give you the badge and out you go onto the street, those are long gone. We're really looking for that person with that college degree, or at minimum a technical college degree, and life experience. We're seeing that even in the last group that we hired. You're seeing the 30, I believe one, I call him a young man, but I guess maybe not, depends how you look at it, but I believe he was almost 40 years old too. And the life experience, the ability to communicate and know people, that is such a big part of what we do. And I'll suggest this. I used to be a field training officer. I said, when you walk into somewhere and you're dealing with people, I said, you treat them with respect. I don't care who they are or how many times you dealt with them, how drunk they are. But when you come to their house, they demand that you treat them with respect, as you would if they came to yours. And you should do the same thing. Listen to what they're telling you. It isn't just go in there and start barking and start taking charge in that respect. Not all the time. Now, obviously, there's instances where that's called upon, and you need to do that. You need to separate that. But at least from where I'm sitting and what I do every day in dealing with people, gosh, you really learn a lot.
You have a lot of power as a police officer.
Absolutely.
You wield a lot of power.
You do.
So you have to use it wisely.
And you have a lot of people that also are checks and balances on that same power. And I'm glad it's there. It's there for a reason, but you never lose sight of that. You're going to answer to a lot of people down the line.
We are now paying more attention to domestic violence in general than we did in the past. And so, kind of taking that into consideration, I was curious what advice you could give to people, because you're usually there, clearly, afterwards.
Yes. When I was still working the beat, as an officer, I was there when things really got ugly too. Now I'm there when we see those children coming in being battered. Well, and when I go into a case like that, always in the back of my mind and somewhere along that investigation, I'm going to spend some time with that mother, because here's my thought: is if that boyfriend or husband or whoever that figure in her life is battering the children, she has probably been on the receiving end of that same battering for years. And oftentimes with children too, if I have a child who's been sexually assaulted by that boyfriend or stepdad or whoever, okay, almost always I'm going to find that mom has also suffered the same before they moved on to the child. So, without a doubt. So, first and foremost, I'm trying to make that case to determine whether it happened, and if so, can we prove it in court? Is an arrest called for, and does this person need to be taken out of the community? Okay? And then I roll into, with the mom, okay, what is she enduring? How is she managing with that? I work a lot with social services, a lot with the women's shelter, the YWCA, and the different programs that they offer, because many times when we remove that father figure from the household, we've also removed the income or ability for that family to continue functioning, even if you kind of wonder, like, well, how could they ever make it before with all this going on? But so that's key in that mom having the ability then to take the next step and say, you know what, I don't necessarily need this person. I can make it on my own. Here's how I'm going to do it.